Namaskara. Chennagidira?
Super.
Okay, that's all the Kannada I picked up from Kairam Vashi sir's interview. So guys, first of all, I've seen the film in Kannada, loved the film. I think this is going to be a very interesting interview because I have to talk about the film while also making sure that we don't drop too many spoilers so the people who are going to be discovering it in Telugu, it doesn't ruin their experience. So my first question to you would be, you said that this film is inspired by an incident that occurred to you in 2006, an accident, but after that it has evolved, like there were so many drafts involved. I mean, like you felt that you can finally make the film, so you made it. When you went to Rakshit, what was, in which shape was the film in?
It was a very formed idea because it was a very old idea and I'd sort of worked on it extensively. And when I decided to do this as my third film after Kavaladari, I had worked on the script and the idea had evolved because of me having a different perspective and me growing with time as well. So my emotional intelligence, my maturity, all that factored into how I saw the same material. It wasn't the same material, so there were a lot of things which I felt needed to change. So when I went to Rakshit, I went to the base idea, which is the film, but the screenplay and the scenes, all that was completely new. So initially I just told him the idea in terms of what the graph of the character is, what the graph of the story is. Once he liked it, then I worked on the details.
Okay. Actually, what was your very first reaction when you heard the script?
So I really wanted to do a love story. That is because after this I was going to do Richard Anthony, and after that I had a few plans, like my next films, and I knew that I won't be doing this love story for a long time, and I did not imagine Hemanth Rao doing a love story though. Yeah. But when he came up with an idea that he wants to do a love story, I was game for it because that was the best thing which could come my way during that time. And I respect him as a filmmaker, the kind of love what he has for cinema. So there is no second thought that should I work or not. So I want to jump in and explore where he's going to take me. So yeah, as soon as I heard the concept, I was very much excited. I kind of knew what the character is, and it's going to be very, very exactly opposite to my next, which I'll be playing, Richard Anthony. So I like to do that, like do a character and completely break it and do something which is completely opposite to that character, and again break it and do something else.
Didn't the producer in you feel at least a little bit apprehensive about the fact that, look at the climate around us, the movie-going culture around us? We are more inclined towards escapist cinema, right? We want the spectacle, we want, something that will make us forget our lives. But Sapta Sagaradaache Ello, yeah, it gives a haunting experience, it is a beautiful experience, but it hits you too hard. It's too haunting. I mean, it's too real. It feels too real. The characters feel too real. Weren't you? I mean, the producer inside you, wasn't he a little apprehensive about, will people be coming to the theaters to watch this?
Not at all, actually. I definitely knew that, I mean, keep my remuneration aside, but what we are spending on the production, that is what I am worried about. And I knew that kind of money what we have spent, that is definitely recoverable because that much trust and the market and kind of films what I do, people know that this guy is going to do something new which he has not done before. So there is a certain kind of trust which is developed in the Kannada market for me. So I knew that money at least we will recover for sure, and then the rest is I'm being a part of good cinema. And we believe in cinema, both of us. So the kind of hard work you put, cinema will definitely give it back to us in terms of money, in terms of everything what cinema has to give you, or can give you.
What was the first day on the set like? Like you spoke when you were shooting for Richie that you had to take that pan and then you would go into the character. What was the process like? How would you direct him? How would you become Manu? What was the first day on the set like?
For me, it was more of the workshop what he did. So that probably brought a nice comfort between me and Rukmini, and that's where I had to start with as we started shooting. I just had to had to be in love with Priya.
What's the first scene that you shot?
We shot those house hunting montages where there was no much dialogue. It's just that the way you look at each other sometimes here and there. That's about it. So that kind of chemistry we had developed during the workshop itself, and then after that, I completely depended on him, that the way he is going to shoot the film. As a filmmaker or as a writer, I understand. I mean, he doesn't have to come and explain that this is what is running in my head. As soon as I see him taking shots and what kind of shots he's taking, the way he's editing the scene, I get an idea that okay, what kind of film he's making, and eventually it becomes easy for you to get inside the character more and more as you go further.
Okay. Since you spoke about the staircase scene, I don't know whether I'm reading too much into the film, or staircase is often considered as a tool to portray poverty and the class, right? Did you intend it that way? Because we see Manu and Priya climb it a lot. Did you because they are trying to climb the social ladder? Did you intend it?
No, not really. The thing is, if you look at the housing situation in Bangalore, a lot of small houses are built on top of each other.
Okay.
So it's realistically it makes sense for them to be looking houses in a certain type of housing zones.
Okay.
So that was more of the reason to use those staircases. It was not in any way, shape or form to show a certain they're
Class
trying
difference.
to class difference. There are such shots in places, but not in this specific thing. And the usage of staircase as a motive is only used consciously between Achyutana and the other secretary when
he comes down
and he's climbing up. That was the only place where it's consciously used.
I thought you went full on Bong Joon-ho Parasite style. Okay.
No, I mean, I think he has used a lot of shadows in the film, if you observe. A lot of reflections in the mirror, all that. So he's played with all that.
As in there are many places where, subconsciously I've made decisions, but it is reflecting of the writing intent. It's like not everything is like I thought about this and then I went and shot it like that. Sometimes it's the location that I get will happen to be like that, and
Another beautiful scene when Manu breaks the news to Priya. When Manu breaks the news to Priya that he's taking the false charges, they are walking down a subway. Again, like you said, was there all writing intentions?
No, the staging reason for that primarily was, if you actually look at the scene starts off with her listening to music.
In the bus, no?
In the bus, and there is a certain melody to her character. So when he snatches the thing, I wanted from the transition from music to noise. So the reason why I wanted to stage the scene in the subway is because I wanted the chaos and the noise to factor in.
Okay.
So that was the main reason why I wanted that confrontation to happen in a very noisy place, where amidst a lot of people. That was the thinking behind it.
Okay, that's really lovely. I mean, like I had interpreted it completely different way, but I think that's the beauty of cinema anyway. You spoke in one scene, in one interview, you spoke about that Gopal Deshpande scene where he's talking to Manu, saying that how Priya looks back at you, and only when he points it out, does Manu realize that and you said that it's one of the very first scenes that you wrote in the first draft. And I find it interesting because I want to understand your writing process. Don't you write chronologically, or do you like pick up these moments and you flesh these points first and then connect the drama between them? How does it work?
So when I start writing a film, I stay in that zone. I'm thinking about that film it's like there is a crazy amount of inertia. I think it's common to all writers, I suppose. Initially, you don't want to write. You're like, because it's generally very taxing, tiring, and it is exhausting. So you are like, okay, I'll write. Then you start writing, you can't stop the ideas coming into your head. It is there all the time. You're having a conversation with somebody and there is like a voice in your head saying, what if this happens? What if that happens? You know, you just get visuals. So I try to organize all those thoughts in a pattern.
Filtering the thoughts.
So I have short ideas, I have scene ideas. So I create folders like on a Google Keep document. So I keep a tab open just for dialogue ideas. I keep a tab open for short ideas. I keep an idea open for scene ideas. So whenever I get such a thought, I make a note of it. Not all of it is chronological. Some of it is totally useless, but some of it is character backstory. So I filter all of it down, and then after a lot of this, I sort of try to make sense of it, and then that's when the writing actually happens.
Okay. Rakshit, what was the toughest scene for you in the film?
To be frank, I don't remember anything to be difficult. It's just that
Something that was most taxing for you, perhaps?
probably the same scene what you're talking about in the subway scene. So we shot her close-ups first.
Her counters.
Her counters first, and I'd given my natural self for performing that scene completely. When she was performing, and it was my suggestion. And when it came to my suggestion, her suggestion, and they were taking my clothes. At that time, I first 2-3 takes, I again projected the same thing what I was doing, but for some reason it didn't go through because the junior artists were not coordinated well. And then after that, something happened inside me. For the next 7-8 takes, I'm not getting my lines. I'm not getting. I'm stopping in between. As I'm performing, as I say, 2 dialogues are coming properly. I know that I'm inside it, but as soon as I tell the 3rd dialogue, I know this didn't come from the heart. So I'm getting conscious, and I'm stopping the shoot, and I'm asking for one more take. So that happened like continuously for 10 takes, and then we took some time. We took a break, and then then we went for one last take, and then it worked.
And one of the most fascinating things about this film is how it gets the prison part right. I mean, I was watching the film and I heard a comment saying that this is how prison looks, not how it's portrayed in Jawan, because the way it is, it looks real. You can laugh if you want to.
I haven't seen Jawan, so
very
I don't
diplomatic response.
Not diplomatic. I haven't seen it.
Okay.
So if I've seen it, I would comment.
Okay. What was the process like? What was your research like?
Oh, I visited the prison 3-4 times, where I had multiple conversations with people who are incarcerated, who have served their term, who have come out and who are leading lives. I spoke to people who are multiple, they keep going. They're career criminals. So I got a chance to interview them. The police department I have to thank a lot, because they were very accommodating of me to go and visit and understand. So a lot of these conversations that I had, and I obviously had prepared a questionnaire of sorts. I wanted to understand what is the power dynamics, who feeds on who, and how does it work. So when I asked those questions, I got a lot of interesting responses, and that helped me sort of create that world, including the factory and the prison working sort of ecosystem that exists. So it was very interesting for me to explore those elements.
Did you guys shoot in a real prison, or
we shot the major portion of the prison is actual Shimoga prison.
Okay.
The rest is all sets. We built a lot of sets to create, like the meeting room is a set. There are a lot of corridors in the film, so all of those corridors are sets. So a lot of places were specifically, because there was a very specific kind of visual treatment. Certain visuals needed to be reconstructed.
Okay.
So
can you give an example?
For example, there is when the fight is happening, when the juxtaposition of 2 shots, there's a passageway that he walks from the top. That passageway doesn't exist in a prison. We sort of created it. So like that, the letter, giving letter writing episode, there is no such place that had to be reconstructed. Stuff like that.
Rakshit, this is a question that I'm going to come to you next. He directed you in 2016 for his first film. How much did he evolve as a director? What did you notice in him while you were making Sapta Sagaradaache?
I think he's evolved as a person. The director was always inside him.
Okay.
Also, those were the times when probably he didn't want to take risk with somebody's money. So he was very, although his film required a little bigger budget, I mean, we were in a position to shoot in Red 1 or Red Max then, but then he wanted to shoot in 1D and not go over budget, because we have not made a film like this in Kannada, so you don't know how it's going to work in the market, things like that. Although even if we had shot in finally when the film came out, even if we had shot in Red 1 also, we would have made enough profit, but he was like that. I think now at least, I mean, he's built a profile for himself where where he can. He's still like that, but his boundaries have grown a little more, where he doesn't compromise on anything when it comes to storytelling.
Okay.
But otherwise, I think the filmmaker was always there inside him. He's evolved as a person, and probably that, obviously, as you evolve as a person, the filmmaker naturally grows inside you. Am I right?
Yeah, definitely.
How much did he evolve as an actor and producer?
No, as a producer, he is become, as in the amount that he gives himself to cinema, the way he has dedicated his life to building what Paramba is in terms of not only for himself but creating a platform, is a very big enabler for for a certain kind of storytelling that doesn't exist in Kannada. So the evolution is very beautiful to watch, because all that we were discussing when we were doing Godivanna, the way he was talking about it, he has done it. I've seen him do it in various stages, and from an acting perspective, he was a fabulous actor while we were shooting Godivanna itself. It's just that the finesse and the hold on the craft, it's almost, it's like switching on a light bulb. He can go in, deliver like something extraordinary, and come out like it was effortless. Wow. And it required a little more focus, and it shows in the way he's evolved as a person. And despite the crazy amount of success and stardom that he has got, he's still rooted to the endeavor of excellence, the endeavor of cinematic knowledge, and being a student of cinema. That, I think, is a testament to how he's grown. So wow. It's nice.
Wow, cool. Did he surprise you at any point while shooting? Maybe you
All
might
the
have.
Time.
Okay.
Surprise in the sense that, see, when it's not, when you write 4 lines and the actor does 4 lines in his look, the way he looks at the camera, the way he looks at the frame, you don't need words. So it was not that we were like, oh, how could he do this? That was not the surprise. It was like, wow, where did this come from? And it didn't have any build up. It just like that. For example, there's a scene where Manu sees Priya and she's walking away, and he's standing and watching her walk away. That was performed without, like, it was like almost like performing a shot which is very mechanical. Like, you have to tie your shoelace and look up. That's how effortless it was. So, and we did only like 2 or 3 takes. Usually I do a lot of takes because of there is a certain requirement for the actor to act to the camera's movement. So those shots take a little more takes than your normal shots. But this one we got like effortlessly. So that way I'm like constantly going, wow, So that has happened a lot during both side A and side B.
Oh, wow. Now, Rakshit, as an actor and as a producer, you need a certain level of conviction to believe in a director's vision, right? For instance, there are moments in the film that I'm not very sure would be as effective as words. Like if you read it, say for instance the scene where Manu is going up with the tape recorder and he is listening to it. In that scene, for instance, the sound mix plays a role there. When he switches on, the world just slows down for him. These are things that you have to believe in, that these things will work. On paper, I'm not very sure whether it might not be as heartfelt as what it looks in the final film, right? So how do you understand what he's trying to build this, do with these moments?
Imagination, right? In the sense, as soon as he starts doing something, your mind starts working on a possibilities where all this can go, how sound design can go on, all that. And when I look at him and I can see it in the eyes that this is what he also means. And sometimes I ask him, this is what you're planning. So he has a smile on his face that, how did you know? Yeah. And then sometimes he comes and starts something and I'm like, this is what you're doing. So that's the beauty of, working with the beautiful director.
It helps a lot that he's a filmmaker himself and he's a film director and a writer himself. So there are a lot of cues that I get excited about and I look up and he's already got it. So even with regard to writing, a lot of what happens with writing is that, see, you are always, when you write a script, you can be very, it can communicate the flow of events, it can communicate the flow of story, but it can never give you an experience. A script can't give you an experience. The film has to give the experience. The director has to figure out the experience through the treatment. So for me, sound is a very important element when I'm writing. So the element of the tape recorder playing in a loud place is by design. Like when he switches the thing on, the intention from the script itself was to mute out everything else. To create that element, like even the clock. There's a repeated motif of her looking at the clock, which is used as a input for the sound to kick in. So, and I love working with sound because Raja Krishnan sir, who's the sound mix engineer, the audiography credit, he is just phenomenal. Like what he does with the different elements that we give him, the design elements, and how he designs the sound experience is something that for me is the most beautiful experience of filmmaking, because that is what is actually a theatrical experience. And why I say film should be watched in the theater is because it's not about the big screen. You can have a 80-inch TV at home, but it's the idea of sitting in a dark room with sound sort of traveling around you, and like it's like a warm blanket in a way. So that for me is the most special experience working with Raja Krishnan sir.
Did you guys ever argue over a creative point, like you saying no, Manu will behave this way, you have, like, this is how it works? I mean, never? No. Always on the same page?
No, in the sense, if I am directing a film, I do not want anybody to cross their line in terms of, I'll take inputs from everyone. Finally, it's my film, because nobody will understand the film the way I understand it. The same way, I believe that every director has that, because the way he is traveling with the film, I can never travel. I can travel with Manu and I can understand a lot of things what he's trying to create, but I have not seen what he created completely, not 100%. So when I don't know that, then how I know where to draw my lines also. That if I come up with an idea, if I think something, I'll tell him. If he likes it, then I'll hear it the next time I meet him. If he doesn't like it, some idea probably I've told him second time, and if he's not encouraged that, I stop there. I just go with his intuitions.
Okay. Was there something like that in Sapta Sagaradaache Ello?
Not to an extent where I remember it.
Oh, okay.
But there are few places here and there, I think.
Okay.
No, the thing with there's never been a creative discussion from the perspective that you asked, because we never bring ego into the.
No, I'm not talking about ego. It's like interpretation. He might have interpreted
no. Even interpretation wise, there is never been a like there will be things like which the way he looks at the character. For example, there was a scene where Manu at 2 points, for example, his input, his creative input made a huge difference in terms of how the scene was interpreted. One was where, you know, when Manu comes and, you know, to Patil and comes and says that, you know, the sweat, I couldn't take the sweat, so the smell of sweat, and that is why I did what I did. That scene actually was a little more elaborate and little more justifying his actions, and he was breaking down as per the original script.
Okay.
He was supposed to break down.
Okay.
But when I discussed the scene with him, I had sent him the script and he had read the script. We had done a narration and all that. But on the day of the shoot, when I went and I have the habit of meeting the actors first thing in the morning and telling them what we are going to do the rest of the day. So when I discussed the scene, he read about it, and then I went and met him again. So the discussion then was about, you know, it feels that him breaking down is happening too early. You know, if he breaks down now, then it feels like the resolution is there. You know, that his burden is out.
Angst, yeah.
His angst is already out. He needs to hold it in, and that was his interpretation. And when I walked away from it, I thought about it and I discussed with my co-writer Gundu Shetty, and we discussed it and it made sense. It was like, correct, it's you know, it doesn't make sense for him to have this. So I restructured the scene in a different way, and then when he read it, he was like, yeah, this works, this is very perfect. And that's like that. There are discussions. There are a lot of times when there are, you know, I'll want the line to be said in a certain way, but it is for him to say it naturally, it is not fitting. So I have to adapt and, you know, get the same point across, but in a way that is comfortable for him to perform. That holds true for other actors also, like with Rukmini, with any other actor also. I have to work to what is coming to them naturally. So that way there have been a lot of, you know, inputs and a lot of the thing with working with a writer and a director himself is that he is also able to look at it from a creative standpoint. He is able to look at the film not maybe exactly like how I am looking at it, but he gets the vision. You know, he can see, okay, it's going to get there, it's going to get here, you know, that sort of a thing.
Okay. So I posted on Twitter that I'll be interviewing you guys, and there were a lot of questions. I have filtered a few for both of you. So here we go. Sai Rajesh, the director of the Telugu film Baby, he had a question that why did you have to show the glimpses of side B towards the end? Because had you finished the film when Priya just opens the door, done, the effect would have been more haunting. But he felt, I mean, I don't completely agree, but I can see where he is coming from. But by teasing the second film, the film is kind of diluting the impact that it had created, that it had built up until that point.
See, there are two things. You're also advertising for the second film.
Yeah.
It's a marketing call as well. It's also a thing of tempering the expectation in terms of what is the film going to be about. It is Manu's story. Like Manu comes out and what happens then. So there is a certain element to the Manu Priya story which we are saying when there is a reason why the shot cuts just when their hands are about to meet.
Yeah.
So the idea is that, you know, there is a story that is still incomplete. So if we ended the story on that black note where the door opens, it would have, you know, you are not giving a sense of, you know, a breadcrumb about what you want to tease the audience in terms of their imagination as well. And for me, the end goal of creating a shock is never been exciting.
Okay.
As a filmmaker, I feel you know, to shock the audience is as an end goal is a low hanging fruit. I mean, in my book, like you know, it is not like it is very easy to do that. It's very easy to sort of, you know, end on a note where you're like, where you leave the audience you know, like in a shock.
Yeah.
I wanted to leave it on a slightly emotional, you know, with the emotional after effect of the film.
For Rakshit, you had this question, man. So many people are asking this. Madhu Rajeshwar, Appu, Manaswini, very similar questions. As an actor, what excites Rakshit the most while choosing a script? Is it the story or the way the character is written? And how does he manage to choose the most exciting scripts all the time?
Like I have 2-3 ways the way I look at it. One is I look at it from I want to be a part of good cinema,
Yeah.
and another thing is I want to break what I've created until then, and do something which people don't expect from me, and break that again and do something more. And another thing is I look at from a very broader perspective where I know when like I'll be doing Richard Anthony next, and I have a couple of lineups after that. So I won't be able to make a love story later. So I have to. It's the right time to do one. Also, the way these films, 777 Charlie or Sapta Sagaradaache Ello, will be considered, the way they will be looked at when I make Richard Anthony. So obviously now I am getting what I deserve, all that. But I know when I make the next film, this will be appreciated even more, because you start seeing like, okay, the same actor who's played such an innocent character, now he's done this, and before that he's done another character which is like Dharma, and before that he's done Critic Party also. So yeah, for me it's a bigger perspective which matters a lot, and I've always believed that 20 years down the line, when I look back at my cinema, I should be proud of the films I have made, and I should be proud to show it to people around, even that during even during that time, like after 20 years also, the films I have made today should resonate with people then, that generation as well.
Okay. Next one is for Hemanth. I love this question. Okay. So Jeevan asked, favorite question to director. In one of his interviews, he mentioned how people used to smuggle the pen drive to watch films. Did that inspire him to write a scene where Manu struggles the tapes?
No, no, not really. The thing is that there is a large element of contraband. Like it's very difficult to get stuff into prison. If you have money, it's very easy to get anything into prison. So knowing that, getting the tape inside wouldn't have been logically easy. So for me, the idea of creating that whole thing of how he gets the tape across was with that intent. And I also knew that, see, when you write the film, what are your like juicy bits. For me, the juicy bit is the tape sequence between Manu and Priya. So when I know that I have a juicy bit, I have to set it up in such a way that it is not easily served. It should feel like it should go through, the audience should be made to go through a little bit.
Feel earned.
It should feel, I should earn the right to give the juicy bit to the audience, and the character should earn the right to experience that juicy bit. For him, hearing a voice is the most important thing for him. So it shouldn't happen easily. So the whole idea was to, create that arc just for him to, experience that. When he listens to Priya's voice, is what we should feel like. Okay, he has earned that right. So that's the basic setup.
And you don't make things easy for him at all in the film. It's like, leave the poor guy alone. Like, how much pain is too much pain, man? I mean, like, see, I get the point, but didn't you ever feel that, oh my God, this is too disturbing for the audience?
No, it's not. See, I cannot ever think that way, right? Because in the sense that I cannot detach myself from the film that I'm making and look at it from the experience that I'm trying to create. I'll get ahead of myself.
Okay.
And I will only write from the perspective of the audience, which I don't.
Write from the perspective of audience. Okay.
There is an audience in me.
Okay.
I am an audience member, so I know what chances I am taking. So if I were to look at it, I would position myself as a typical middle class audience that would brave the traffic and go watch a film. And if the film is not sincere in its world creation, in its story, and if it is taking me for granted, I would walk out feeling very frustrated for the money that I've lost, for the effort that I've put in. Because I'm walking in wanting the film to work. I'm never walking in thinking the film should not work. That is most audience. they have decided to have a good time. So it's on to me to make sure that they at least have a good time. So when I am getting that already, then tailoring and I am one of them. So then tailoring them saying, okay, I'm going to make you happy now, I'm going to make you sad now, is too mechanical for me. For me, it has to be an organic process which happens through the course of the story, right? So, and the story has a certain arc, it has a certain thing. Unfortunately, in this case, it has a certain arc. I wish it did, but it is. And it is very true to real life, in the sense that real life is not.
That's why it is more haunting.
Yeah.
One of my final questions. Why did you need an external antagonist when Manu, there is enough conflict in the story? As a writer, you can also pitch in. There is enough conflict in the story already. For instance, the fact that Manu kind of did this mistake, he did a mistake by, accepting those charges, and then he's, he and Priya are torn away. He has, that guilt is there inside him, he's pining for Priya. So there is enough conflict already here. Then why do you come up with a prisoner who is torturing Manu and picking on him?
See, it's not again written from the perspective of creating extra conflict. It is about the Manu is going to a world that he has no clue of.
Okay.
And generally the norm is, see, when you take a shortcut, you only keep into consideration the distance that you are having to save. So if he has to work 20 years of everyday struggle, sweat on your shoulder, on your collar and struggle, and you work 6 months and you get the same amount of money, right? Now, this always feels like a better proposition, on paper at least, right? So when he takes that decision, he does not know what else is there in store for him.
Right.
So a lot of people make that mistake. A lot of people take the fall, even in the case that I was a witness to, the driver took the fall for it. So and I kept thinking, why do these people regularly do this? Just 3-4 months back, there was another such case where again there was somebody who took a fall for it. So it's common place for that to happen, and I felt it is a good thing to examine as to what is it that they're signing up for. And that world is something that is new to Manu. So the whole idea of using that to sort of shape him as a person is how I looked at it. I didn't look at it from a perspective of adding conflict to the story. I looked at it from a perspective of, okay, if you're going to a new world, he has to interact with that world in different places. So there is good to that world, there is bad to the world. So where does Manu find himself in that ecosystem?
I know this is going to be a tough question, but I want you to answer it. If you had to pick one of your favorite scene from the film, what would it be?
Oh, the letter writing scene which leads to the final meet between Manu and Priya.
Why that?
That's the idea itself is so beautiful that he's already written her a letter, and he knows that he's not going to meet her once again, but she doesn't know it, and she's hoping that okay somehow I'll fight for him and I'll get him out, and then that letter reaches her after. So the audience also knows it. So now that's the protagonist is in a situation where everybody around knows it, but she doesn't know. That's beautiful, I believe. And every time, while I was dubbing only, I was getting emotional. So, yeah, that is my favorite.
You also have to do it. One favorite scene that you're proud of. It's very hard, but
for me, I would say the juxtaposition in the end. That is a scene I still remember when I wrote it in 2006. Like when I wrote the first draft, I felt so like I wrote back home, and I felt the wind in my in my face, and it felt so beautiful because I knew I'd written a piece of cinema.
yeah.
So and I was waiting to make it.
Wow.
Make that scene, bring that scene to life. So I waited for a very long time to bring that scene alive. So yeah,
wow.
That is.
How did it feel when Mr. Radhakrishnan mixed it, everything, finally saw it? How did it feel?
So that's the weird thing, right? I experienced the film just in like the last person who does the work, the Rajakrishnan sir, is when I actually get to experience what my film is for the very first time. It was very overwhelming. I made calls to Rakshit, I made calls to Rukmini, I made calls to my technical team, Advait, Charan, and I basically was like I was sobbing. I was very happy because I've never had when I made my first film, because I was doing it with a lot of constraint, I co-produced it myself, and when I made Kavludari also, there was a lot of like crazy stress that I was working with. I never really, sort of enjoyed it. And the first time when I took the copy out of side A, when I saw it, I felt a great sigh of relief. Like I really enjoyed that whole thing. So I felt very happy.
Final question. Both of you have to answer it. Will side B be more haunting and sadder than side A?
I don't think it's a sad film in the sense that
come on.
I see the thing is
Define sadness now. Side A was a certain kind of poetry. Side B is more of a rock band poetry.
Okay. Yeah, it is. I mean, it is the same story. It's a different shade to the same story. So it is. The treatment is different. The way the scene, I mean, the way the story is constructed is slightly different. It's a lot more complex.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's a lot more complex.
Okay, very excited to watch side B. Rakshit, this is a question that everybody has been spamming me. What's happening with Richard Anthony?
I'm writing.
Still writing.
In the sense, I have everything here. I just have to put it on papers. So that is happening now. But right now, the thing is, I can't do. I can, but writing wise, I need to get away from the world and do it. So when probably side B releases and I find my free time, then probably I have to write one final draft. That's all.
Superb, guys. Again, I love the film. I have a personal anecdote, which is that the first Kannada film that I watched in Kannada, I mean, like I had seen Mr. Puneet Rajkumar's films like Vajrakaya, like Bajrangi, all those, the action films, I had seen like the Hindi dubbed versions. But the very first Kannada film that I watched in Kannada was Kavludari.
Oh.
So in 2019 when it dropped on OTT, and I really loved Sapta Sagaradaache Ello. So this conversation actually has been very memorable to me. Keep making more films. I'm very eagerly looking forward to side B, although I'm a little scared to step into the theatre and I'm afraid that I'll get my heart broken once again. But guys, Telugu version Sapta Sagaradaache is releasing on 22nd. Please go experience that heartbreak. Thank you very much for the experience and this conversation.
The side B will be more of conclusion, so I don't think it will break your heart.
Yeah, I don't think it will break your heart.
Okay, I got my thumbnail then. Finally, I got my thumbnail. Thank you guys. Thank you very much for the conversation.